Knowing whether you can make a living playing video games or not is incredibly hard, but today I'll go over how to know if you can do it. Over the last 6 years, I've seen a lot of players I would consider friends go from nothing to the very top of professional play, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they all have a few of the same characteristics. I've also seen players go from being the worst ones in our friend group to becoming some of the absolute best in the world. And sadly, I've seen time and time again players investing 40 plus hours a week into the game and getting nowhere. Strap yourselves in, because today I'm going over a lot of hard truths that you deserve to hear if you want to go full-time as a professional player. Starting off, one common trait of players making it to the very top is their level of effortlessness to get on and grind. What I mean by this is some players want to play more than anything else, whereas others would rather watch YouTube, TikTok, or a football match, meaning their time on their PC would be ineffective if we're talking in terms of improving at the game. Being obsessed with playing can of course both be negative and positive, dependent on how you use your time when on the game. Additionally, if you're someone who plays a game and then hop directly on TikTok, YouTube, or Twitter when you get eliminated, you won't be as focused as someone who doesn't do that. Even when you're waiting to queue into another game, you shouldn't instantly switch your focus over to TikTok. You should instead reflect upon what went wrong in your previous match. Being focused on just playing is a luxury that very few have in 2023. But if you're one of the few, this is a great sign that you can become a top player. Naturally, you can adapt this sort of mentality with discipline alone, but a lot of people's attention spans are already long lost in the world of short-form content and quick dopamine hit tweets. Moving on, another characteristic of players that make it is that they get angry when they get eliminated, but not angry in a victim-like way, complaining about something that isn't gonna help them improve. No, they get angry at themselves. Players that end up becoming super good have the ability to naturally critique themselves for mistakes they make when they lose a game. A lot of players nowadays get eliminated and don't even react. They don't even think about what they did wrong and feel nothing when they get eliminated. Or they start talking about everything else other than themselves as the reason behind them going down. If you want to become really good at anything, you need to be highly critical of yourself, always looking at why things aren't going the way you want them to, and trying to find a fix for the next time you're in the very same position. If you're not critical and always trying to better yourself, you'll progress extremely slowly, and if you're watching this video, that is not what you want. If you play with the same players every single day and they're all at a low level, you will also stay at a low level as a player. Players that will be able to play professionally has it in them to go looking for better and better players to play against. Enjoying a challenge is very important if you want to play video games for a living. Now, it might not always be fun playing against better players than yourself, because you can't always beat them like you can your friends, but future professionals will be able to extract an enormous amount of improvement and understand that even though they might lose today, down the road they will benefit greatly from getting destroyed today. Having humbleness and respect for players that perform better than you in tournaments and reflecting upon why they succeed and you don't is also really important if you want to make it full time. A big problem with young talents nowadays is that they think they're much better than they actually are, and fail to understand that the only factor determining how good a player is their placement on the leaderboard at the end of a tournament. Nowadays, having good looking mechanics and looking cool is respected, but if you want to play for a living, you can't be satisfied with just having content creator mechanics. You need to understand that performance is everything regardless of how your gameplay looks. Now, naturally, you can be bad at competitive and have great looking mechanics and make a comfortable living doing Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. And often, this is actually financially speaking a better road to go down. What is really important though is that you choose whether you want to be a competitive player or focus on content. Because if you only focus on one other than trying both at the same time, chances are much higher that you'll succeed. One of the most optimal ways to go about it is of course firstly focusing all your time on competitive and becoming really good, getting great results, and then when you've built a name for yourself just because of your tournament placements, you start full grinding content. This route can be a little risky if your competitive career doesn't work out, because then you won't have the skill set to become a content creator, since you've used all your time on competitive, and you won't have the competitive earnings to back you up financially. Big risk, but also a massive potential reward. A lot of people think getting to Unreal in Ranked is a sign that they're getting close to playing professionally. Now, don't get me wrong, getting to Unreal is not a bad start at all, but it is in a very limited way an indicator of whether you have what is needed to play for a living or not, and you need to be careful to think that being Unreal is something special. My wording here sounds super mean, but it is simply the hard truth. The question you probably have is, what is a good indicator to know whether or not I have something that makes competitive worth pursuing? I like to think that there are 6 main levels you need to climb to become someone who plays for a living. The first is playing some ranked and beginning to play tournaments. You won't do good at all, but maybe it sparks something in you that leads you to step 2, which is grinding almost exclusively to do better in said tournaments. Now, in the beginning, you won't know how to play or what good players do in order to improve their tournament placements. So you just try to play more and more and get ready for the next tournament without really knowing what's worthwhile. This is also often a step where people get close to or even reach Unreal, 4 steps away from making a living. On step 3, you start doing a little bit better in tourneys and you start making some friends who are also eager to improve as players and get into the real competitive community. I'm talking getting on Twitter, maybe getting in some Discords and understanding who's really good and not just thinking the pros who are big on social media media are the best players of all time. The fourth step is the hardest to get out of, and that is the step of knowing what to do, playing the right customs, and grinding with relatively good players every day. You also spend time doing VOD reviews, and at this point you should be inside the top 5k players in the bigger regions like EU and NAC, and top 500 on regions like OCE, Middle East, Asia, or Brazil. As time progresses, you manage to make it to step 5, being a top 1000 player, or top 100 on the smaller regions. When you're at the point of being a top 1000 player, you'll also have the opportunity to play customs against the best players in your region, and you'll also be quite respected in the community. At this point, if you stay consistent every single day, you'll get into the final step, which is being a top 100 player in EU or NAC. At this point, you will be able to make a full-time living off of playing the game if you set your priorities straight and you're actually focused on making money playing. How long climbing these steps takes will be different for every single one of you, but if you stay focused and really go at it, playing consistently every single day, the progress will be pretty fast. Now, I do need to note that it is objectively speaking incredibly difficult to climb all of these steps, and if you don't love playing the game, it's probably not worth going for. You gotta remember, you're competing with others who will put in 8 hours a day, every day. So if you don't love it, you need to be inhumanly disciplined to make it. A lot of people look at playing video games for a living as an easy job, and you're right. Once you reach the top and you know what it takes to stay there, it is a way easier and way more comfortable job than a normal 9 to 5. But getting there can be a real fight. You gotta remember, in the start you're playing for nothing, putting in thousands of hours for very limited or no money at all. Moving on to a bit of a different topic, we need to talk about people becoming satisfied. If you're someone who becomes satisfied easily with your performance, then you'll probably have a hard time playing video games professionally. Being obsessed with winning is a character trait a lot of professionals share. So if you get to 30,000 PR and $5k in earnings, and you start believing that you're the best player in the world, you won't be able to play for a living, because you won't keep on pushing as hard to improve as you have to get to this point. And this happens to so many people. They set goals of getting to 5k in earnings, and after some time they reach those goals, and that is fantastic and definitely something to be proud of. But if you want to play professionally, you need to have insane goals that are so crazy that you can't share them with anyone. The pro players of the future will get to 30k PR and 5k in earnings and think that they're bad. That's the mentality the guys who will make it in the future has. Another trait of professionals is that they instinctively play to improve. Now, this may sound obvious, but you would be surprised to know how many people don't play to improve. The best example of not playing to improve is hiding in ranked and playing for placements, not going around trying to fight everyone. If you're someone who hides, you're playing to achieve something, in this case a high rank, rather than to improve your abilities as a player. The only time pro players don't play to improve is in tournaments. In tournaments, they play to their strengths and play to perform. Pro players are really good at understanding what they need to practice, and they're not afraid to fail when playing ranked W keying, creative against good players, or when queuing into customs. In the same way people play to achieve a high rank, a lot of people play to earn or to get a top 100 placement, but a lot of pros play to become better every day. Having a goal of improving every day will be way more likely to get you to pro player status, compared to having the goal of earning money. Because a lot of people who has a goal to earn money slow down once they've done it. They don't know what to grind for anymore and never reach their true potential. Pros are also able to isolate what they need to work on, whereas non-pros know they need to work on 10 things, but try to improve all 10 at the same time. Pro players understand that they should focus on one aspect, take that from being a weakness to something they're good at, and start improving on the next one. Additionally, if you don't know when something doesn't work, whether that be a practice routine, a tournament strategy, or a way of fighting, you're going to have a hard time becoming a full-time professional player. Those who make it understands quickly when something doesn't work. They don't try the same thing every week for months on end, expecting different results. If something doesn't work, they let it go and adapt. But at the end of the day, the biggest factor in whether you can play professionally or not is how much time you have to invest into the game daily. Some of the best pros in EU play as much as 4 customs a day on average throughout a season. This statistic was released by Noble Practice Server's official Twitter accounts. In addition to that, they play ranked and hours of creative. That means if there's one day you can't play, you need to do 8 customs the day after, and if there's a week you can't play, you need to do 28 customs to catch up. The sad reality is that if you don't have as much time to play as most others who are able to play at highest level, you likely won't be able to make it. You in many ways need to dedicate your life to the game in order to play full time and make an okay income. And on top of that, it's hard to make more than 100k a year, even if you become super good, meaning setting yourself up for life is something nearly no one will be able to do, considering most of you watching me live in high cost of living countries. A lot of the pros today will make good money now, waste the majority of it, and end up in normal jobs in just a few years. Obviously, there is nothing wrong with that, but if you get to the level of making 100k a year, please be smart with your money. That is your security net for the future, whether that be in Fortnite or something totally different. The beauty, however, with Fortnite is that young players with a lot of time on their hands can excel in it because they're in school with very few responsibilities and also very few other opportunities to make good money. So investing a lot of time into becoming a good player might actually financially speaking be an alright idea. If I was 13 today, I would grind Fortnite like none other. Even just making $100 extra a month in a Soda Victory Cash Cup at the age of 13 is a good monthly income. I already know there's going to be people in the comments talking about how their equipment is holding them back. People that say that if they just had a better PC or if they just had a better ping, they would be good. Those people don't have what is needed to become a professional player. People that make stuff happen don't complain about their circumstances. They do something about them. Oh, you have a bad PC? Start working. Find a way to make $2,000. You have bad internet? Explore every single option in your area until you find something that betters your situation. There are always opportunities to take action and do something about your position. When I was 13 years old, I knew I needed to make money so that I could move out to get better internet. At the farm I lived at, I had 2 megabits in download and 0.2 megabits in upload, meaning it would take over 24 hours to post some of my videos to YouTube. And when my father opened an image on Google, I would spike to over 1000 ping, making competitive games unplayable. I also couldn't stream, which was a massive dream of mine. A few years later, I was able to move out for the first time. It took 4 years, but I was able to do it because of taking action, always working with the goal of being able to move out in mind, and set myself in a better position to succeed in doing what I absolutely love, which is creating content and playing competitive games. A lot of people want to reach their goals now, but in some cases, that just isn't possible. If you're in a tough spot right now, find a solution to get out of it and give yourself the best odds of succeeding, because there's always a way, especially considering you have an internet connection, a device, whether that be a phone, PC, or tablet. You have something you're watching this on right now that you can make money on, that you can reinvest into your equipment. On a totally different topic, if you're someone who is really bad at taking criticism, it'll be harder for you to go pro in Fortnite. One of the most effective ways of improving is by being told what you're bad at, either by a coach, a friend, or someone else whose opinion you respect. It's crucial when asking for constructive criticism that you know that the person on the receiving end of that question wants what's best for you, and actually puts some thought into his answer and gives you a reason for it. Because very often it can be hard to know ourselves what we should focus our time on. If you're someone who is highly competitive, you enjoy getting challenged to the highest extent, you find it effortless and have the opportunity to put in hours upon hours into the game every day while still being comfortable getting critiqued, you can play Fortnite for a living. You have the needed characteristics. Of course, as previously mentioned, getting to the point where you can play for a living is very difficult. But once you get there, the job is the best in the world. It gives you freedom to an extent a 9-to-5 couldn't even dream of, and the scaling potential in yearly salary is nothing but extremely motivating. Hope you all learned a thing or two from watching this video. Feel free to discuss further in the comments below, and I'll hop in and come with some of my viewpoints as well. Guys, thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will see you very soon.